Hey everybody, Edo here, and I am excited today because I have not one but two upcoming Kickstarter creators, Aaron and Risa Mckinney, and these two have made the game Kicking Class. It is going to be on Kickstarter on April 24th, which is Tuesday, and as part of the Gaming with Edo Season 4, we had a tier for getting some advice and engagement and discussion around the Kickstarter and what's going on, which they pledged for. So this is all part of it. Independent from that, I'm also doing a preview of the game because I've played it, and I'll ask some questions about it as we go, which will go live with the campaign. But to start off, and you are RAM Games. So to start off, why don't you give a little bit of an origin story on, this is the first game you guys have done, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So, how did you come about Kicking Class, which is very, head back to high school themed game. But how did you think about how did you start working on it? How did it come to be?
So starting out, I would say it kind of started from I just had some spare time at work and I was looking for something to do, and I've always loved playing games, and I wanted to find people to play. I didn't have anybody that I was currently playing games with. We kind of moved to Kansas City when we got married. I didn't have anybody that I was playing with, and so I was like, I'm going to design a game. And that's kind of where it started with. And I actually worked on a design before this, but I was kind of a lot bigger and heavier and a lot more stuff going on, and ended up talking to a friend, and we decided to make a game about high school. And so it just kind of started with that, and then kind of snowballed from there. And then Rissa ended up jumping on board a lot more once we got going, and she really helped out with helping with the theme and making it exciting and fun. So
yeah, I mean, I feel like it was definitely your idea to kind of start it up, and I was a little leery about it at first, but once it I was like, yeah, let's make a board game. But I saw the passion he had once he started doing it, and I was like, okay, I mean, he's all in, so it sounds fun. I'm going to have to be all in because we are married, or I'm just going to sit on the sidelines.
I mean, not every wife says that, but do you guys play other games together, or is it like just unique to this? Oh, okay.
Yeah, we play lots of games together, especially now. I grew up playing board games, and it was a completely different style than like he kind of wanted to play. But I think since we've gotten married, he's played a lot lighter games too, and just has come to enjoy not just the super heavy, super strategic games. So I think his board games have expanded in what he's like too. So we play a lot of games. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we play a lot of two-player games together, and I mean, I have some gaming groups that I go to as well. But I mean, I would say I play with Rissa more than anybody else. So we play a lot together.
Well, so I mean, there's some great two-player games. What are some of the two-player games you've been playing recently?
Role Player is one that we've been playing a lot.
Keith Mateka.
Yeah, by Keith. Yeah, by Keith. Yeah.
He'll be happy to hear that. He usually watches the first 30 or 45 seconds of my videos just to tell me. Oh yeah. Well, Keith worked on Herbaceous and Sunset Over Water with me, and we have a game that's in development called Skull Hollow, which is a two-player game. But anyway, he makes jokes about the videos because he doesn't have time for anything. But I'll tell him, instead of just watching the first 30 seconds, he can go 60 seconds, or actually 4 minutes, and he'll hear his name get dropped. But Role Player is fantastic. So not just exclusively two-player games, just games that are really great with two players.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
For sure.
And what's another one? Out of curiosity.
I mean, we've been playing some King Domino lately. I mean, Splendor.
Sure.
Yeah.
Some of that. What else have we been playing?
We've been playing a lot of Kicking Class.
Sure. Of course. And actually, you might enjoy Queen Domino. I don't know if you've played it yet. It's sort of a level up in terms of complexity based on King Domino. So it takes the base of King Domino and bumps it up. So it might be a good one to jump into.
Yeah.
And if you haven't played it, you might check out Herbaceous or Sunset Over Water.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, but you have been playing a lot of Kicking Class, and I played it as well. And so, actually, why don't you, I mean, I could actually describe it, but why don't you give a quick overview of what the gameplay in Kicking Class is, and then I can add some commentary.
Sure, you're good at that.
So the mechanics and the gameplay, so it centers around, you have your dice rolling. The goal for the game, and, once I kind of started designing games, like, I don't have a lot of people, like, in my close proximity, and then, like, my family is not big into games. And so the goal for the game was being more of a gateway, lighter weight game. And so dice rolling really helps out with that because, there is choices. We wanted something with choices and strategic playability, but we wanted something that, people that are more advanced with board games or they just can't run away with it. And so dice help level it out some.
Sure, that random roll. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so within the game design, we incorporated a lot of dice rolling, and, that's one of the key mechanics in it. But we wanted to make some stuff that wasn't really out there, we have other things like, the variable play powers, which, are nice. We have the popularity track, which we really enjoy in the game, that gives that more tension in the game of player order and doesn't always have that set player order.
So yeah, just give a brief synopsis of it.
Oh, that's what I'm supposed to be doing? Okay.
It's cool, man. People put it together.
Yeah, that's fine.
I thought, yeah, okay. Brief synopsis of the game is, so you're a high school student. You are competing with the other players to win a scholarship. So whoever scores the most scholarship points in the game wins. It's based around high school, so there's 4 different years, and each year there's 3 trimesters that you're taking classes. And then, there's other things that are incorporated, like your popularity. You have the ACT that you can take. And so those kind of all combine, and you combine them together to figure out who scored the most scholarship points at the end of the game. And so that's kind of the whole goal of the game, and it's kind of incorporated, and we try to make it where it's balanced, where you can't just do one thing to just advance in high school, which we kind of feel like that's how high school is. You gotta, gotta balance what you're doing.
So having played myself, as I'm getting ready to do a preview, one of the things that's really interesting about the game is you both have a fairly complete representation of the high school experience, right? I mean, it's gamified, but as you mentioned, you have all the different 4 school years, you have all the different classes, the different trimesters, but because in any given trimester you're really only doing 1 dice roll against 1 class choice, it ends up being a pretty zippy game. You basically, to sum it up again, you're going to reveal a number of classes. People have certain dice that they can use to try to roll against a certain target, whether it's a number value or odds or doubles. And then if you succeed, you've passed the class and you get some benefit. If you failed, you typically a negative, sometimes some popularity from it, but a negative repercussion. And essentially, it's a little bit of dice manipulation and planning after what classes you're going to go for and how do you want to sort of specialize, if you will, or focus on certain subjects to have more dice to play towards them, as well as certain abilities that give you re-rolls and things like that. So it's sort of engine building in a micro dice sort of way. But each trimester actually goes very quickly. I mean, it feels like when you think of all of high school, you're thinking about a long period of time, but it actually plays pretty quick. And then you even have this concept of the ACT, which is a sort of bonus you can lean into between years, so between going from freshman to sophomore. And then also the ability to say you want to have a summer job or you want to hang out, and so within all that, it's actually super rich in terms of theme, right? Like the effort that went into the classes, the parents, the subjects, all of that is pretty detailed. So at what point was it like, we're going to blow out and go big on all this characterization and theme versus sort of the mechanics? Like, how did I understand there was sort of a handoff and engagement as you stepped in to start bringing in some of that theme, but how, beyond just high school, how did that process work? Because it really is a highly thematic game.
Mm-hmm. I think, honestly, that was one of our main goals, especially now looking back. We really wanted the theme to not just be something slapped on there. And now we can look at games and really appreciate when the theme is incorporated through every mechanic of the game. And I think that's something that we both really enjoy. So that process just came out of us really wanting that for our game. So it was really fun to kind of try to find, these little ways that our theme could even fit in through something so simple as a parent card, and things like that. I think that was a fun part for us and super important to our main goal of making the game.
And who did the parent name puns?
Okay, so I have to tell this story because I tell this story all the time.
Sure.
So this was actually kind of transition when Rissa really started helping out. So like, I've been working on the mechanics. I spent a lot of time working on the mechanics and stuff like that. And, Rissa did help out with that. But whenever I started getting to the theme, I'm not original really and like, like funny and stuff like that. And so I asked her for help on it, and she's busy doing her stuff, And so anyways, I work on it myself. I keep working on it. And I literally spent 3 weeks and, several hours, lots of hours trying to come up with these parent names. I was like, I want to make them funny. I want to make them kind of like whatever. And then finally, after a few weeks, I was like, Rissa, I can't do this. I need your help. And so
it's very nice of him to ask for help.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I literally finally get her to sit down with me. And in 15, 20 minutes, we came up with almost all the parent names. Like, that's all it took her to come up with all of them. And I'd worked on this for weeks.
You should have asked earlier.
I did.
Where does this thing go? How do I move? What how do I get it done?
The funny thing is, like, I didn't really take him seriously because I'm like, if you just sit down and, like, try, you can come up with these names.
No.
And we sat down and tried, and his, like, options for names, I was like, no, maybe not that.
Yeah, well, as you work with people from different skill sets, there's one thing that's obvious to one person is sometimes not obvious to the other.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so then what point did you, and I don't have the person's name in front of me, but bring in the art and the artist? In terms of a production and a package, it's pretty final. In terms of the rule book and the organization and the layout. I mean, it isn't for a first-time creator, and what I usually get from a prototype perspective, or even from experienced creators. This is pretty well formed in terms of all the different pieces. What was that process like?
That was, a very interesting and kind of long process for us. That was something that we really didn't know what we were doing when we got into, and that was one of our main things. We're like, man, how do we find artists? How do we find, this stuff? I didn't even know the difference between an artist and a graphic designer at that time. Illustrator. And so, like, we had a long ways to go, but so Rissa was taking some classes with someone that was like an illustrator at her school, and so we ended up getting her to help us with we had like a
super rough prototype.
Yeah, more of a rough prototype, and so we learned a ton through that experience, and we kind of worked with her to kind of figure out like what we were doing, like even like card sizes. We weren't really sure about that, and so like we learned a lot through that process, and then once we kind of did quite a bit with her, we knew we needed to step up our game and make something that looked a lot better, and something that people would actually want to buy, and at that point, I started contacting, just different illustrators and graphic designers. And at that point, I was, fortunate enough that John Ariosa, who's done some games with Keith even.
Yeah, he did role player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
This is much more friendly and pleasant than his other stuff. Did he do the cover of Role Player, or did he just do the cards? I don't remember.
Oh,
I'm
good question.
I'm not sure.
I just figured he had done it all. But.
Yeah, he may. I'm not. I'm gonna like turn this over and then be like, oh well, he didn't do that. But I don't remember. Illustrations, but there's a second name on here, so. I think he did some of this is the Role Player expansion in here.
Yeah.
It's all shiny, but there's the little goblin and other things which I think he did. But this is much more fun, lighthearted, pleasant.
I think he was it seemed as though he was kind of excited to do this because it was something than what he's used to doing. So
Sure. You can only draw demons and goblins and orcs so much until you're like, I'm done. Let me draw high school kids, which is sort of weird, I guess. But no, it's great. Lots of personality in the characters. Lots of personality in the text. And then the graphic design came after then, presumably?
Yeah, so after we got John kind of on board, I started looking for graphic designers, and then we ended up getting Peter Gifford, who does kind of known as Universal Head, and ended up having some conversations with him, and we're able to get him to do the graphic design, and we were very, very happy with how that turned out, and he's been a big blessing.
Did he also do the rulebook with you, or?
Yeah, he did the layout for the rulebook, but we hired Dustin Schwartz, I think that's how you say his last name, to do the editing and to
the actual word content.
Yeah. For those who don't know, Dustin is a bona fide rulebook writer. I've not worked with him directly, but I have met him and I'm aware of the work that he's done. And I think, I mean, at the end of the day, you guys worked on a game. You hired a experienced professional illustrator. You hired a professional graphic designer, and you hired a professional rule writer. And without a doubt, the game reflects that. As I said, it's really well put together. So that was that's the game piece, right? And so you're moving along, and now you're, presumably starting to spend some money and a lot of time. How long this whole period you're talking about to today? When did this? I don't have any friends in this area. I want to make a board game. Period. When did that start?
So for this specific game, I started working on it last February, so it's been a little over a year at this point from when we start to where we're at now.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so it's been about a year, and so at some point you're making your decision to get these artists and really commit to making this thing.
Mm-hmm.
At what point in that process were you like, and we're going to do a Kickstarter as opposed to I'm going to pitch this, or have you pitched it? What was the process to sort of get towards Kickstarter?
I think our main goal was Kickstarter, really, just because of the big boom in board games, I think, that they've had recently. And, I think that was really our main goal, was to put it on Kickstarter and kind of get it out there and, see how it does from there. And then from there, we'll go see if we get any offers from other people or whatever it may be, Mm-hmm. But I think that was initially our main goal, was to put it.
And so the Kickstarter is a week out. Now, as I said, this will probably post on Monday, so it'll be tomorrow. But right now it's a week out as far as this conversation is concerned. And so where are you? I mean, are you locked and loaded? Is everything done? Have you finished your Kickstarter page? Or is it is it in development? I mean, how nervous are you? Where are you as you're a week out?
Yeah, I mean, we're getting very, very close to having everything done. I mean, we've already got, all the main stuff lined up that you, of course, would expect, like a manufacturer, distribution, stuff like that's kind of been, we've done a lot of research and talked to a lot of different people about that. But for our Kickstarter page, we're actually basically done. We just put the final touches on our video a couple days ago. Everything on the page is pretty close. We actually shared it with few Facebook groups today to try to get some more feedback on it. But as soon as we get a few more reviews in that we're still waiting on, we'll be basically done with our Kickstarter page. So.
Yeah, I think right now we're more excited than nervous at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, a little bit nervous, but now that, we've kind of put it all out there, we're really excited about it. I think
you have a ride in front of you. You have a nice. Yeah. How many days are you running it for?
So we're running till May 24th.
So about 30 days.
Yeah.
Cool. You'll be May 24th, which is a Thursday. That Tuesday is when I'm launching Herbaceous Sprout. So I'll say we'll meet in the night, and then I'll move along. And so and actually, it's an interesting time. I mean, you're still seeing games coming through and doing well, but it's also challenging. We just mentioned Keith. He launched Dual Powers today, which would have been a little bit before, and look. For a lot first-time creator, it's doing well, but it didn't blow out of the gate, right? So, that just means there's a lot of work ahead. And if you do provide me with the link after, when I do post this, I'll put that if you're comfortable with it, and people who see it on Monday can still check it out, hit the notify me, and all that kind of thing. How did you? So, clearly you've been doing research. You mentioned the Facebook groups. Obviously, you've been able to connect to the community to get. An artist from another board game person. You've been able to get a graphic designer. You found a community rule writer. So you've been able to follow those links to actual people and turn it into partners that are working on your contractors that are working on your game. Have you, what were the key things that you think you picked up and learned, other than resources that would help you solve these things, for being a first-time creator? Like, what would you say? Albeit the lessons haven't been tested per se, but what are the 3 lessons that you think you've learned from the community thus far?
We'll see.
Yeah. I would say the 3 lessons and the 3 things that I would almost characterize got me to this point. The first would say I'm a huge Jamey Stegmaier fan. I mean, I don't think anybody that tries to do a Kickstarter as a board game creator can really get to the point almost doing it without reading through his blogs, reading his stuff. I read his book. I mean, he's really set the course almost for a lot of people that are trying to or have done it or been an inspiration. And so I think just kind of following his footsteps almost has been something that's been hugely important and helpful for me and us, to get to this point, is just seeing how other people have done it before. So there's also other great blogs out there like James Matthews' blog and and then so I would say those blogs have really helped guide us on our path, and I don't think we would even get close to where we're at without those. And then the second thing I would say for me is the community, the board game community. That's one of the things that has drawn me in more than anything almost about designing games, is the community of the board game of board game creators, because they're so helpful. They want each other to succeed. It's so different than any other industry that you'll ever see, in my opinion, almost, because the people give each other feedback to try to help them succeed. They go out of their way. It's just such a different community, and I just love being a part of it. And I've gotten within KNC, there's a great group of people that design games and play games and different things, and I've gotten so much more involved in that. It's been such an enjoyment for me and something that's helped me along the process.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I was just so impressed with the way, first of all, how quickly people respond when you put things on Facebook in those groups, and you're asking for opinions or advice. Just people respond so quickly. It's like they're so ready to just help, and I was so impressed with that and really encouraged too, because it was just a great community to be involved in, and I think it really just even more so inspired us to keep doing what we're doing, because we just enjoyed that community so much.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly agree, right? The board game community is extremely engaged and supportive, and in ways you wouldn't. I mean, I've made a lot of indie video games for a long time, and I never felt that the indie community in board games was quite as willing to really want to see everyone succeed in the same way. Even though our games compete on Kickstarter or in retail or otherwise, there is a genuine sort of push for everyone to succeed approach. And I think, again, it comes from a lot of people who play these games with other people, right? I mean, it's sort of inherently a social activity. And for sure, I mean, even starting back in 2013 or whenever it was, I mean, the first real resource I used was Jamie's blog. I mean, he hadn't done the book and all those other things at the time, but it was super helpful. Interesting. Another little interesting anecdote. Jamie actually, one of the other Kickstarter backer requested things was for me to be interviewed, and he actually interviews me, and I'll post that in a couple of weeks, so that'll be a fun one.
Awesome.
Yeah. So he's
looking forward to that.
He's a good interviewer, apparently. And he actually, his YouTube channel's bigger than mine anyway. Anyway, so you have it coming up. You've learned all these lessons. You are excited. Are there any specific concerns you have, or any more things that you feel iffy about or nervous about, or are you really just itching to go?
We're probably just nervous about becoming so famous.
That's good. I mean, I'd be nervous about that too.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I feel like we really put in the time and the effort, and we've really gone through every hoop and over every obstacle. I feel like, to just double check and triple check everything to make sure that we're ready in every aspect. I mean, there's definitely going to be stuff that comes up as we go. I mean, stuff that we're not going to be 100% prepared for. But I mean, in my opinion, I don't think we could do too much more to, get more prepared for what we're doing. We've got our Kickstarter page is basically ready. We've done, all the legwork on different areas. And so, there's definitely stuff that will come up that we're not ready for, but we've done the legwork as much as we can at this point. So I feel very confident where we're at.
Good.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. And I think, one of the advantages you have, and you may have shared the link with me at some point, but I've been super busy, so I probably didn't spend time looking at it recently. But certainly the theme feels standout in terms of there's a lot of party games and other things that might talk about this stuff a little bit, but a game that's really roundly about high school and working through high school, and in a cute, memorable way. We were actually, even when we were playing it again earlier, my kid who's 10, right? He's not in high school at all. He was getting a kick out of watching us play, and just sort of, because, the high school doesn't even, he has no idea what it is, right? Like, because he's not even, like, if he was 11, 12, 13, he might start watching movies about high school, but that's even
Right.
a little too, like that's not quite there yet in terms of
Right.
sneaking a PG-13 movie or something like that. So to him, like that might as well have been what high school was like, right? Like, he was, like so anyway, no, but so I think that really stands out, and yeah, it's a neat game. I think you again, as I said, did a really nice job of keeping it light, but having this sort of full execution of the theme. A lot of times when you see Euro games, a Euro game will attempt to do that. One I reviewed recently, which is on Kickstarter now, it may have closed, was a game called Tour Operator, which was essentially this Euro-style game of being not a travel agent who basically sets up and plans all these different things. And it was similar from a thematic perspective of really trying to capture all of the different elements of the experience, but it was a deeper, not deeper is not the right word, but it was just a heavier game. It was just a slower, more Euro-style game. I think you guys did a really nice job accomplishing that without it becoming, having all the motions in there, but without it becoming the exercise of doing all the motions, right?
Right.
Which I think feels good for the kind of weight of the game and the experience. I think if it was more taxing, I wouldn't want to spend that much time back in high school. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think those are the questions that I would have. Is there any? I mean, just while we're on, we hit a lot of it. Is there anything that you're curious about, or any questions that you have?
Did your 10-year-old play it?
He wants to. He wasn't. We were already. He like meandered over as we were playing it.
Okay.
But certainly after I had played it, it's clearly a game that he would be able to play, right? So
Right. Yeah.
no, he asked if he could play it, but it was like, I got to cook dinner, man. We're not going to play it right now. But so we'll pull it out at some point. Probably end up getting another player or two in before I film anyway. So maybe one of those will be with him. And I think the rest of the gang, I even think Evan, who's 8, would still. I mean, mostly it's pick a class and roll the dice and then deal with the actions and things like that. So, yeah. So he hasn't played it yet.
Okay. Yeah, I'm excited to see if he likes it. We've had some cousins of ours, I guess, that have played it, and they were about 9, I think.
There was about 8 to 10, but 3 of them.
Yeah, and they really enjoyed it, and it's just kind of cool seeing someone so young enjoy it, and then older people, like their parents, enjoy it too, all on the same table, enjoying the same game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, it's snappy, right? So you end up, it's one of those games where you have a number of components, you have a number of setup in terms of the different grade levels and getting everything together. But that once you're like flipping over the classes and everyone picking one and going for it, it then ends up moving fairly quickly, right?
Right. Exactly.
So like, when you start playing a game, you never know what's going to happen until you start playing it. But like setting it up, it was like, oh, there's a lot going on here. And then when you start playing it, you're like, oh no, I'm just picking a class, rolling, and that's a trimester is really a turn.
Right.
When you think of a trimester in your head, you usually think of a lot more, right?
Yeah.
But so again, it's a week from now, but it'll be a day from now when I post this, I believe. Good luck with it all. I hope that it succeeds. What's your goal?
So our funding goal is $15,000.
Okay, a $15,000 funding goal is fairly modest. So that I think you can be somewhat bullish. And what's the game? What's the backing level? The main.
So tier? We only have 2 tiers, just the $1, and then we have a $39, and then there'll actually be there'll also be shipping on top of that will be included, but $39 is the main pledge.
So 39, that's 40, that's 100, 200. So you're basically looking for about 350, 400 backers, depending on how they to fund.
Right.
Yeah.
There's that many people. You got that many friends now. You've been doing board games for the last year.
Yeah.
You made friends in Kansas City. You just got to go and.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. No, I mean, but the advantage of having a smaller funding goal and doing that is at some point you're gonna come out of the gate and do, you know, maybe you have a fantastic day one and you're done, right? But like if you don't and you have a you know, a solid but working day one, you know, at that point that's probably 150, 60, 70, 100 people, and then you have this 3-week period where you're, you know, if you break it down, you're like, oh well, that's about 20 people a day. Well, you know, you can sort of imagine how you might have to, you could go get the liftoff. For me was very much like, I got to get 10 people today and go get. And so you can definitely, with a number like that, really bootstrap in the event that it doesn't just blow out the gate, right? I think, again, to the theme being fresh, you know, if hopefully you're fortunate, you get featured by Kickstarter and those kinds of things to promote the theme. And yeah, well, I think we covered it. Best of luck.
Yeah, we appreciate your feedback.
Oh, sure, absolutely. You'll get some more in the review as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, cool.
All right.
Awesome. Well, it was great talking to you.
Yeah, thanks for being on. Bye.
Bye.
Hey everybody, Edo here, and thanks for watching Gaming with Edo. Reviews over here on this playlist, League and Insider videos over here on this one. Subscribe, share, all that good stuff. But most importantly, play some great games. Thanks.